Welcome back to the ICF Code of Ethics video series, and we're going to be wrapping up the section today on the responsibility to clients with sections 9 through 13. And today I have Anita Gupta. She's coming to us from India, and she is a member of the code review team, the folks who kind of rewrote the code for us. And Anita, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Brighton. My pleasure, absolutely, to join you on this wonderful series that's been initiated around the code.
I'm going to jump right in. So you're going to be covering the end of the section on responsibility to clients. So this is numbers 9 through 13. So why don't we jump right in to number 9 and talk about the end of a coaching relationship, the termination. So what do we need to be thinking about ethics-wise?
So I'm going to start off from just making a quick mention to Standard 8 because it fits in to this termination. So during a coaching relationship, let's say that the client does not see value, the same perceived value, and there's a shift in that. The ICF Professional coach is expected to pick that up, bring it up, so that if there is a need by the client to terminate the relationship, then that gets respected. Now, how do we do that? So the contract, there is a sample agreement, of course, on the ICF site. So we pick that up. The main clause that will come handy in such cases is the termination clause. A very clearly defined termination which allows for either or parties, both parties, to terminate, cancel the agreement at any point of time. The other part of it, in terms of the contract, which will come handy perhaps, is a refund policy. The template that's provided by ICF has an open section where the coach could insert their refund policy if they so choose to.
So none of us like to acknowledge when things aren't going well, but when it's not, what should the coach be doing?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So one of the possibilities is that accepting and respecting the right of the client to terminate. Of course, it's perfectly okay for the coach to invite the client in a pro bono meeting to seek their feedback and possibly also look at discussing mutually to say, how could they be better served? Is it going to be better served if they were to be referred to another professional resource or potentially another ICF professional? Just because I, as a coach, am not able to fulfill the need of that value, I should be comfortable referring the person or just pointing them to another profession or another ICF professional.
Great. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up because it is great. It's also nice to have the ability to, and one of the reasons it's good to connect with other coaches so that you can pass those referrals to someone who might be more appropriate. But let's talk about multiple contracts now. So this is number 10, and you're perfect for this because you're a coach, you're a mentor coach, you're a coach trainer. So talk about how coaches might have multiple relationships and multiple contracts with one client or one sponsor.
Of course, you absolutely touched upon a good example that the same coach or the same ICF professional could be a coach, a trainer, a mentor coach, or a person that evaluates performance of a learner in the class. Obviously, that brings up a potential bias that could be in place when you assess the performance and say that this particular learner has fulfilled all obligations of the course. Just because you're a trainer and you also have to assess them, it sets it up for a potential conflict of interest. I'll take another example. So I might be a professional who could also provide a consultancy around, say, nutrition or financial decisions that somebody might want to take, etc. Right? So apart from doing coaching, I could perhaps do that. But it has to be very clear to the client to say which hat is the professional wearing at any point of time. Is it the coach hat? Is it that financial consultant that I'm talking to? Is it the nutritionist I'm talking to? Is it my mentor coach? So having multiple contracts with the same client or the sponsor at the same time is okay. However, at any point of time, it's super important for the client to know which contract is this professional operating from. So it's very important for us to have clear, distinct contracts based on what is the professional service that I'm delivering to my client. And this is very important considering also the public view of our profession as ICF professionals as distinct from other professions like therapy, counseling, consulting, etc.
Great. Well, thank you for explaining that one. Let's move on to the next one. Number 11 is about power differentials. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so coaching is a true beautiful partnership. It's a dance between the coach and the client towards whichever goal they want to go to. But the partnership is really based on the fundamentals of equivalence, which means there has to be an absence of a power difference. It has to be at equal. Yeah? Now, if a coach feels that the coach is superior or inferior in that relationship, it breaks that construct of the partnership. Of course, it's in the same breath possible that the client might perceive the coaching relationship to be one of hierarchy, a hierarchical relationship, which could be due to just cultural nuances. It could be the age. The coach looks much older. How can I be coached by somebody? As well as perhaps the gender biases could come up. Yeah. So all these cause the power difference to potentially surface. Now, it's for the ICF professional to make sure that they are aware of possibilities of such differences coming up. And if they do, they need to explore what's happening as well as manage them. Because coaching has to happen only when there is a lack or a zero power difference between the two.
So how does a coach go about maintaining this partnership?
The task of the ability to maintain and sustain that relationship without a power difference is something that the coach has to constantly be aware of and be looking out for. If they see that this is not being addressed, they should seek supervision perhaps so that they could get back to no power difference in that relationship. However, despite all these, if they still perceive that there is that power difference that exists, then the ICF professional is encouraged, invited to possibly consider terminating that relationship.
Yes, there is always something kind of beneath the surface, and it's great. Coaches, that's part of what coaches do is dig in. So let's dig in beneath the surface of compensation. So I think we're up to number 12, and that talks about maybe hidden compensation. So what do we know about that?
Referring people to any specific professional is perfectly okay. If we get fees for that referral, this standard calls for disclosure of that to the client so that they could make their own choices of whether to go with my recommendation, the person that I referred them to, knowing fully well that I am going to receive the fee, or they could be pointed by me to any other, just the profession, and not a specific person in that profession. That could help the ICF professional to maintain the integrity around themselves. In the same way, if I were to, as an ICF professional, talk about all the tools that are there in the market, the personality assessment tools that are there in the market, and I don't make any specific recommendation, but allow and support the client to choose whatever they want to choose, which best serves their need. So they take ownership of their choice, regardless of my recommendation. That would be a good way to address such potential conflict of interest. Even the perception of a potential conflict of interest in the eyes of the client.
Great, thank you. And also one of the great reasons to keep up with good referrals, good understandings of other professions, or good assessment tools out there so that you can provide that service to your clients of saying these are the different things and this is the pros and cons. But let's get into the last part, number 13, the last part of the responsibility to clients and continuing along the compensation route. So let's talk about number 13.
So as an ICF professional, This standard talks about equal quality of coaching, regardless of whether I'm coaching a student, somebody in the NGO space, voluntary coaching, or a business person, an executive, regardless of their ability to pay compensation amount, I must deliver the same level of coaching as per my competence. So a price dependent quality of service would contradict the ICF professional mindset and that of our practice.
So thank you so much, Anita, for covering these 5 pieces of the ICF code. And thank you for watching. And the next section up is section number 2, which is the responsibility to practice and performance. And you can watch the next video by clicking up here.